Is this thing on? So, I'm at a new location. I'm in the process of changing locations, so it'll be a new background for the remaining videos of the channel. This location, there might not be boxes and stuff, but I'm at a new location. Today's video is a book review, The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Still in the Desire series. This book, Robert Greene was also the author of The 48 Laws of Power, which sort of fit into just the beginning of sort of power leading to aggression, sort of the early videos on the channel. Why did I go with Seduction? Well, Robert Greene is an interesting writer in that, sort of like the 48 Laws of Power. He took examples of history, but also fiction. But for the most part, history, documented cases within political history, and he used it to understand psychology. So as a blend of psychology and history. And he does it here in his follow-up too, which is The Art of Seduction. And the book, instead of focusing on politics and focusing on power and focusing on how people obtain power, he's focusing on how people obtain romantic relationships, both short-term and long-term. There are more general tidbits of short-term relationships in here, but there are also some historical presentations of long-term relationships, and sort of being able to be successful in both, being able to generate sexual interest, but then also be able to sort of present commitment and form bond, is both what can happen in this book, are potential outcomes. But what I found most interesting, so the book is broken up into two parts, and I'm sort of going to do the series of review process for the video on the first part, and then the Substack will be on the second part. But with this book, he broke it up into sort of seductive characters, roles that people can play that cause people to become intimately interested in them. And then he also breaks down the seductive process, which is more sort of behavioral actions at each stage of a relationship, each stage before sex occurs. And I think one thing reading this book, it was published in 2001, and Me Too has happened since then. And some of sort of what he portrays as seduction might not necessarily be considered seduction today. The thing is that I think he is more accurate than a more modern person, because seduction has an element of physical and visceral sort of themes that you need to be willing to sort of be uncomforted in that process, and people will be uncomforted in the process of being seduced by someone. And it's not necessarily that they do it, it's partly because in order to seduce someone, you need them to have those physical emotions for you, those wanting to have sexual actions with you. And often, in order for that to occur, you need to be able to show that you can handle an altercation where physicality will be necessary. And usually this is physicality for the good, but you also need to be able to perform physicality for the bad in order to gain somebody's trust to be physical with you. Now, that's not to justify any non-consensual behavior, but there is elements of non-consent in the seduction process. The reason for it is it's testing. It's testing levels of interest. It's testing willingness to perform a task. And in the seductive process, you never really truly understand if one person has legitimate intentions. And so sort of playing coy, playing like you're not interested, there's an element of that. Additionally, sort of cultures shape norms, and getting through those norms is a process, especially if you're trying to sort of have a relationship that is outside the norm of what a culture produces. Anyways, so in the video I'm going to go over a few quotes from the characters that Greene presents, which there are 9. I'm going to go over 3. And then in this Substack I'm going to go over some interesting quotes from the process itself. So, for the first quote, showing a calm, unruffled exterior in the face of unpleasantness puts people at ease. You seem patient, as if waiting for destiny to deal you a better card, or as if you were confident you could charm the fates themselves. Never show anger, ill temper, or vengefulness. All disruptive emotion that will make people defensive. In the politics of a large group, welcome adversity as a chance to show charming qualities of magnanimity and poise. This is for the charmer character. And an essential to be considered charming is never to complain. You have to be able to handle adversity without seeming like whatever challenge you're presented with is too disastrous for you to handle. You're no longer considered charming when you think a challenge is too difficult. Sort of in fairy tale history, you got Prince Charming, and charming goes into whatever circumstance is necessary to succeed in whatever mission that he has. So this is for the character of the charmer. The next is on the charismatic, which is different from a charmer often because there's more of a religious component. We lose ourselves in their cause, becoming emotionally attached to them, feel more alive by believing in them. We fall in love. Charisma plays on repressed sexuality, creates erotic danger. Yet the origins of the word lie not in sexuality, but in religion. And religion remains deeply embedded in modern charisma. Why are we saying charisma is more religious than sexual? Charisma is confidence. And confidence comes from elements of faith, knowing or believing in a truth without knowing its conclusion yet. That's why people who are charismatic, particularly in religions, are often the most followed because they are among the truest of the believers. They believe, often without knowing the full details of what'll happen. And that's what charisma is. It's confidence in the face of not knowing. And it doesn't necessarily mean presenting as if you do know what is going to happen. Just know that whatever does happen, you can handle it. And the last quote for the video, this is on the star, which is more of a modern concept, the person who has all the light on them, whereas sort of if we were going to distinguish the charismatic and the charmer, they don't necessarily need the spotlight all the time. For the star, it often requires being present in attention and receiving as much attention as possible. Your words and actions should invite interpretation beyond their surface appearance. You should seem to be dealing not with specific nitty-gritty issues and details, but with matters of life and death, love and hate, authority and chaos. Your opponent, similarly, should be framed not merely as an enemy of reasons of ideology or competition, but as a villain or a demon. People are hopelessly susceptible to myth, so make yourself a hero of a great drama. So the star is sort of a seductive character because they corral attention. They receive a lot of attention. And if you become a star, you will become a seducer because people will want to be around you because of the amount of attention you receive. So this book is a bit of a departure from evolutionary psychology, because evolutionary psychology is somewhat more rigid and mathematical. You need X to get to Y, to get to A, to get to B. This says you don't need to be physically attractive. You don't need to be muscular. You don't need to be rich. You can still seduce people without those things. You can do it through your words, through your actions, through your behaviors. That's all that matters. It's an interesting book, and I highly recommend it for those who think seduction is not a social skill, that think relationships are not a social skill. It is a skill, and here's a good book to read to build that skill. Anyways, these are just my thoughts. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.